Welcome, everyone, to the student section, a Marist College Sports Podcast, which simply put is college kids talking sports. I'm your host, Gary Sussman, an adjunct here at Marist College, teaching sports public relations. And a few months ago, I was trying to determine a vehicle where committed college students could learn more about the media field and better prepare them to pursue a career. I gave it some thought, came up with a podcast, went to the higher-ups, they endorsed the idea, and here we are, 4 months out, ready to produce great content for the spring semester. Now, the podcast will be Marist-centric. What does that mean? Well, we'll highlight and talk about everything taking place at Marist on and off the field, but we'll also discuss other sports topics, local, Hudson Valley, Metro, nationally. Our sports buffet is unlimited, kind of like the Olive Garden. And we all have guests. We want to feature Marist student athletes, all with a story to tell about themselves and about their teams. So with that being said, welcome to our debut show, and as fate would have it, our Super Bowl show. That's right, this is our Super Bowl show for our first podcast. Come get some. So let's meet our two co-hosts who are sitting in the student section, Will the Thrill Rosen and Aidan Lavin. Gentlemen, welcome. Introduce yourself because only your family and friends know who you are.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll start. I'm Aidan Lavin. I'm from Morris County, New Jersey. I am a junior currently at Marist College studying sports communications. My fandom in sports is a little bit all over the place thanks to my dad, who is a Bay Area native. I watch the Yankees daily, follow the Warriors, the 49ers, as well as the San Francisco Giants. And I'm really excited to be here. Shout out to everyone in the back that's working diligently. And I can't wait to get started. Obviously, this is the Super Bowl show, so I'll have a lot in store with the 49ers versus Chiefs. And Will, good to be here with you.
It's great to be here, Aidan, Gary. When Gary came up with this idea, I was all for it and really glad that we finally made it. I'm William Rosen. I'm a freshman. I'm from New York City. Core 4 New York sports. I don't even need to get into that. We'll get into that later on, and you'll hear why. What else? Big food guy. If you hear me talking sushi and you're not a fan, I'll ask you to leave. We have a lot in store here, and I'm really excited for what we're going to give everyone who watches.
You know, one of the things we never talked about was my pitch meeting where I was like the sports version of Joel Osteen, so I don't really know how that went over.
Oh, Joel Osteen.
That's right, but
he was preaching.
I was preaching. I was Shannon Sharp on steroids that particular day. But one of the things that is interesting from my vantage point for this talking sports is how you guys process your sports. So I have a routine and have had it for many, many years of what I do when I get up in the morning and where I go to for my sports information. But let's say you don't have an 8 o'clock class, and where do you guys get your sports from? What's your routine so that you know what's going on?
I think it has to be Twitter, Aidan, right? I mean, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, that's right. The place to be. I mean, realistically, I'm watching all of the New York sports, even if it's the Nets, the Islanders. I know the scores before I go to sleep. But when I wake up, I check ESPN, check what's going on, and I also check Twitter. I mean, Twitter is just every single person anywhere, any sport. It could be D2 college. It could be the MAAC. Every update, there's some guy who will cover it. So I think Twitter is my answer. Yeah,
I'd say Twitter, X. We'll see if it sticks around for a while. Who knows where it's going to go. But as well as ESPN, The Athletic, and then I'd say The Score. I use that app frequently. It's got a ton of stuff on it. Just the apps on your phone that you can find. And then obviously we consume television when we're watching the live events. But other than that, I'll just read a lot of articles. I am a journalism concentration, so I do a lot of writing and reading myself, and I'd say that's where I get my sports from.
So, it's really interesting because the first thing I do every day, this is pretty sad considering, is I read the New York Post every day.
Yeah.
That's not sad. I think that's commendable.
I read the New York Post Sports every day, and I used to, when I was in the NBA, I would read 6 papers a day. But what the great thing was, you could read them all online.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not that I would buy the papers anymore. But
Eco-friendly.
I do go to, I have a routine where I go Post, then I read the local paper just to see if anybody died or not.
Oh.
And then I go to Twitter to see what's taking place.
Would you say you're more of a national reporter guy, or do you like the local? Do
No,
you like?
I'm definitely New York centric.
Okay, so
I need to know what's going on. I need to know what's going on with the basketball teams. I need to know what's going on with the Yankees and the Mets. I mean, I need to know all that stuff. I inhale that stuff. And the other sad part is I'm on all day long looking at that stuff to see what's going on.
I don't think that's sad. That just describes who we are here at the student section. Constantly wanting to learn more about sports.
Right. Now, I have to point out that I am not a student. The student section is right there.
Super senior Gary Sussman.
As Aidan said, there is a host of people that have made this come together. And what started out as just a conversation in October has now become reality. And we have a great show. We have a very, very special guest who I'm just going to say by one name. You know, there's Tiger, there's LeBron, there's Cher, and we have Sasha.
Yep.
Sasha's our guest, maybe one of the great volleyball players in Marist history, gave 4 great years to Marist, and now is transferring. A lot to talk about there. We're going to talk a lot of NBA. We'll get into a little baseball, not much. We'll focus in on Marist sports later in the program. And then we'll end where Aidan is going to convince us that the 49ers are going to
Let's
beat
do it. Let's do it.
Patrick Mahomes,
Bang, bang, Niner gang.
Travis Kelce, and, of course, Andy Reid in the Super Bowl with Brock Purdy, who should get his moment in the sun. So that's our opening. We are so happy to be here. This is the student section. Come on board, debut show, and we'll be back right after this.
This episode of the Student Section Podcast is presented by Hudson Valley Falafel. For shawarma, falafel, and a lot more, go to Hudson Valley Falafel, located across the street from Marist College.
And welcome back to the student section, and we are very pleased for our debut show to have the MAAC Volleyball Player of the Year. Goes by one name and one name only. Her name is Sasha. I cannot pronounce her last name, so that's why I'm only calling her Sasha. But Sasha von der Merwe is here.
Yes.
MAAC Player of the Year. That's right. Round of applause from studio audience. Very nice. First of all, thank you very much for coming here. I know that on your resume that this will now leap to the top.
Yes.
That you were our debut guest. But I have to tell you that when I was coming up with possible guests for this show, you were at the top of the list.
I didn't know you selected me. I just thought, Rob's my neighbor. It's just easy connections.
So you were at the top of the list. I mean, spectacular athlete, player of the year, so all that. And then I found out you went into the transfer portal and are transferring, which made you even a better guest, so that we could talk about all those things. So before the student section goes crazy, when the end of August, 92,000 plus people, women's volleyball game, Nebraska versus Nebraska Omaha. As an athlete, as a female athlete, as a volleyball player, what'd you think about that?
Well, first I just want to say thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.
It was honestly awesome to see. I mean, I feel like volleyball has really grown in the States especially, but honestly, just to see, number one, I remember hearing they're going to play in a football stadium. That's pretty cool. There are some, Nebraska is one of the top teams, so they'll probably get a lot of fans. And then to see that volleyball in general, broke I think it's the women's sport attendance record. It was really just awesome because I feel like a lot of times, you just hear, no one cares about women's sports, no one's going to watch. why should we invest the money? It's just going to be a waste, blah, blah, blah. So I think it was really a big step. And then throughout the year, we kept breaking attendance records, whether it was indoor, whether it was just the most streams for NCAA matches. Like when it came to the NCAA tournament, it was really awesome. And I think it just kind of catapulted this year into the year of just making sure that volleyball especially had the platform to do what we know that they could. And when you gave them the platform, we all showed up.
You guys
awesome.
used your platform. I believe you did the Break the Record event,
Yeah.
and that was during the beginning of the year. I'm sure that Nebraska was an inspiration for that. So how did that come about?
Honestly, it was all on our coach. Just the one day he came in, and after our home opener especially, we had a really good turnout. I feel like in the past we haven't had great attendance, which obviously kind of sucked because even though we don't necessarily perform well in the playoffs, like usually in season we do pretty well and finish like top 2, top 3. And so we're kind of always saying like, how do we get more people to our games? And then home opener, a lot of people came for once. And so then our coach was kind of like, if we could do that, then I feel like we kind of have the capacity to break the Marist volleyball attendance record. And so he kind of catapulted it, and then all of us kind of got on board. And I remember I'd walk out of all of my classes and I'd be like, guys, this weekend, Friday, like this time or Saturday noon, I better see all of you guys in McCann, like we're playing. And then,
awesome.
You get a lot of feedback after their first volleyball game, like, oh my gosh, volleyball's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of fun. I'm going to go back because it's a pretty quick game. So it keeps the audience really engaged.
That also goes to the point of student involvement and student interest in the sports and the attendance and so on and so forth. But when you saw that volleyball game, also volleyball viewership on ESPN up 36% this year. So you had to feel that maybe this was the time to capitalize on something like that.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it with all of the media attention that especially Nebraska Omaha got. It was like, okay, people are looking right now, people are hearing about it, so let's really capitalize on that. And it was really awesome. Like we got the band out. I don't know if it was the cheer team. I think the dance team was there, but I definitely know the band was there. And it was really awesome to play and have them perform. They did an amazing job. So yeah, it definitely was super special.
How would you say, coming out of COVID, the school spirit, did it increase significantly? Because especially during COVID, I wasn't here, but I heard that it was just kind of, you played the sport and that was the end of the day. You went to practice, you left, and that was about all for all sports, especially volleyball and indoor sports. You couldn't be inside, as we know. Coming into this year and most of last year, not as many restrictions, guidelines. You could finally be back in with your teammates and with the fans. How did you notice this year as the main separator from those COVID years?
I think definitely with the COVID years, there was a dip in school spirit, which, I mean, you can't blame people for because you couldn't go to games, or even for us, you're talking about practicing indoors. We actually were doing workouts and practices in the parking lot.
Wow.
I think we got to practice indoors a little bit in the spring or the fall. We played 2 games, and then I actually got COVID because Champ had an outbreak, and so our season was canceled. I know, I ruined it all.
So that was 2021?
2020, like in the fall of 2021 in the
The
spring.
fall of 2020. The
Yeah.
fall of 2020.
Yeah.
Okay, because the school shut, we had to go.
Yeah. And so during that time, I mean, it was parking lot workouts. We didn't
Nice.
even really get the full athlete experience. And I think after that, it was for the people who were here, you don't really know what the student culture is like because you didn't get to experience it. So I definitely think that the kind of student support has increased since COVID, since my freshman year, which is obviously awesome to see. But I think it's really just because now they've had the opportunity to go to games and experience what it should feel like.
And it's not even just the student support for Sasha. Sasha, you are national, whether you know it or not. You play for Canada, correct?
I used to.
You
I
used to
don't
play for
anymore.
Canada.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the United States volleyball in the NCAA is here. I think we can all agree playing for a nation though is way up here.
Yeah.
What just give us a run through of how that even happened. How did you get into the Maple Leaf State?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously I had been to kind of Team Ontario, so that's our provincial team. Provinces are states. I'd been involved with that before, gone to tryouts, and I had tried out for, so it's called the youth national team, that's the one that I made. I tried out for the year before because I always played up in club. I played with my older sister, so I was playing 2 years older than me and a year older than me. And I think I only started playing my own age group in the 10th grade or maybe the 9th grade. But, so, you know, I tried out beforehand, was kind of on their radar, but hadn't made it yet. And then the one year I got the invite to the tryout. I was super pumped, and it was, you know, girls my age, so it was exciting to be surrounded by people you know. And I think just past rejection, obviously I'd wanted to like prove something, but I'm also went into it with the attitude of like, it's not be all end all, you know, just go play volleyball, have fun, and you'll be fine. And then I remember I got the email that was like, oh, well, I think my parents actually got it. And it was like, you know, you've been accepted for the youth national team. And I remember I was so excited, I bawled my eyes out. My sister posted on Instagram, which I'm like, okay, way to expose me. But I was in my living room and I was so pumped just because it was a really surreal experience, especially because like I got to travel to Honduras with the national team. I mean, first we went to Oklahoma, so
nice.
you know,
That's like
another
traveling
really
to another country. So
yeah.
America.
But yeah, we got to go to Honduras and compete in the Norseca Championship, and we did end up losing to the U.S. in the final. But it was a surreal moment, and seeing their fans' love for us too, and having people, you know, come up and ask you for pictures and all that. It was crazy, but it was a great experience. Met a lot of great girls, great coaches.
Did you get better?
Yeah.
Do you feel you got better? during
Yeah,
the
I
experience?
do. And I really got to play against girls, like different countries have different playing styles too. So like being able to play against Cuba and kind of just experience that change was really awesome. And I mean, like one of the girls on our youth national team, Anna Smrek, she's at Wisconsin now. She's a big 6'9" girl.
Wow.
So like playing against her was awesome. Or just, you know, you look back at the girls who were on the U.S. team and kind of where they are now. But yeah.
And all of these experiences nationally have made her the player, or made you the player that you are today, which is a MAAC Player of the Year. I think that's obviously something that we should address. And you also have a bunch of other awards. What do those awards mean to you?
I mean, obviously it's great to get personal recognition because you put in so much work. I think, if anything, though, it's almost a little bit daunting, especially with the and I don't know if other people feel like that, but the preseason player
Right.
of the year, when people predict that.
A lot of expectations.
I feel like it's a lot of expectation. I had a horrible start to our season. Oh my gosh, it was terrible. I was playing horrible. I was like, oh my gosh, my volleyball career, it's in the gutter. I'm going to be the biggest
Hey,
flop.
Aaron Judge starts off slow also. So
Yeah, well, but I think it's obviously really great. I think you just got to make sure that it's not a distraction.
Right.
But, you know, I couldn't do it without my teammates.
Yeah.
And I mean, we are a team of heavy hitters, you know, Jordan Newblatt, Gabriella Heimbauer.
Yeah.
Our middles, when we connect with them, like, they really make it easy for me, because if you have to pick between the three of us, who are you going to pick? Because if you're trying to only pick one, you're going to make a mistake.
For sure.
So I think it's really a group effort, but obviously it's great to be recognized. And
You know, our crack research department did a tremendous job. So not to gloss over the other awards, but you were coach's honorable mention All-American, and you were also East Coast All-Region honorable mention, besides being MAAC Player of the Year. But if we could you just go back to you had to be heavily recruited, I would think.
honestly, not really.
Did that surprise you?
I mean, I think maybe now I'm like, oh wow, I wish like more people should have looked at me, kind of like a aha moment. But I mean, again, with that, I have to thank my coaches for developing me into the player I am today. But the thing with Canadian teams is that you start out later in the game. Like because I bounced around clubs a couple times. I started in Guelph, so that's where I'm from. Small club, isn't really well known. And then I went to Scorpions again, smaller club, but slightly better. And then I went to Halton Hurricanes, and they're more well-known, especially in the U.S. And so I went there, I think it was the 10th grade.
Was that your only sport? Was volleyball your only sport? Did you play
I played
others?
basketball in high school, but then when I got serious about volleyball, because also where I played club was 45 minutes away. So my parents were like, okay, well, you can't have a game Tuesday night that's going until, this time, and still make it to practice. And then my mom's always terrified about injuries. So, I'm a Canadian who doesn't know how to skate or ski.
Amazing.
So,
it's amazing.
but I played a bit of basketball. I wish I could have played longer, but when I had to pick, I was going to choose volleyball.
That a couple of weeks ago, the TCU women's basketball team ran out of players. And so they had an open tryout for the students in the school, and they took one of the volleyball players, then went on the basketball team. Would you be able to do that, do you think?
Oh, I don't know about that. I was good at basketball because I was just taller than everyone, so I could get my own rebound.
You haven't shrunk. You haven't shrunk.
That's true. Well, actually, Gabriella Heimbauer on our team, she played basketball, played basketball, and so she's still good. She'll always shoot around at practice just for fun. But I think if her knees would let her, I think she would still be able to maybe kick it.
I thought of you when I saw the TCU thing. I said, I wonder if Sasha could actually do that.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to spend a lot of hours working on my shooting, but
I feel like volleyball and basketball are like the big trajectory, men's and women's. Like if you play one, you're playing the other because the abilities are relatively similar. You jump, you dunk, or you swat, or you do all the same like movements.
And the footwork. Yeah. And the footwork.
Footwork especially.
Yeah, and the footwork.
If you were to play basketball today, though, you think you'd be the shooter? You think you'd just take a lot of charges? What would be your role?
Definitely would not be a shooter. That is probably out of the question. Just, classic
tough defense, rebounder.
Tough defense, pushing people around a little bit. My family always jokes that I should not play a contact sport. I get a little bit, I don't know, so you guys hockey people? You guys familiar with Nazem Kadri? He used to play on the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Okay.
I don't know where he is now, but we're big Maple Leafs fans. And we talk about how he plays with this red mist almost, where you can see, and sometimes it's not necessarily good, but when it becomes a contact sport, I get a little red misty, or they would joke I make volleyball into a contact sport. So
you've told me about that you just try to hit the ball as hard as you can, and there's really no sense of direction. So what goes into that? Obviously, your setters include Claire Lewis, the junior, and others. When you're preparing to receive a set and you're going up in the air, what are you kind of thinking?
Oh, that's a great
458 kills, by the way.
Yeah,
this year.
It's a lot.
A lot.
Soaring through the air, may I add.
That's right. So we know that you're aggressive. So definitely, if you played hoops, you'd definitely be down low. There's no doubt about that.
Honestly, when I'm in the air, I'm just thinking I got to put the ball away. And I think as soon as you try and overthink it too much is when you get tentative. Like, I always go back to this moment. I don't even remember who we were playing, but it was the final point. I got set the ball, and I feel like I'd gotten set earlier, but still kind of in that red zone, like last couple points, and I tipped it. Obviously hadn't scored, because that's really not how you score. And I was in the air, and I was kind of overthinking it too much. And Gabriella just yelled at me, she went, "Put it away!" And I was like, you're right. Like, if I'm just going to hit it. And I feel like I just got to keep it simple with that. When I go up.
What's the largest crowd you played in front of that you can remember? Was it away?
Like in the MAAC?
Or the 4 year? I mean, do you remember a certain game that
honestly
got you pumped up because there were so many people there?
Probably either one of the crowds in Honduras. Like, the crowds were pretty large. They really have a big support for volleyball there. Or one of our provincial finals match when I was 17 so like the 11th grade, because our team, we had a lot of success. My younger team, we have 2 provincial and 2 national championships. But and in club you only play 3 sets, whereas now we play 5, you only play 3. And we were in the 3rd set, and we were down 14-9, and we came back and won 16-14.
Wow.
And I remember, because also the game was going on a long time. Like, we were going to extra points. We went into a 3rd set. And so everyone else was done. Like, I remember, because we were close with, obviously, the guys our age who were playing. And they had already finished their championship game. They're coming with their banners and their shirts, and they're watching. And so it was pretty much just everyone who was still, the place we played at, it's called Rim Park. And pretty much everyone who was still at Rim just came to watch this game, because it was an absolute battle. Like, we were all... It was interesting. I was more calm while I was playing than in between the points. Like, in between the points, you're jittery, you're shaking. Everyone's looking at each other like, we're fine, we're fine. You're fine, I'm fine, we're fine. And then, go to play, and we're just all locked in. But I don't know if necessarily numerically that's the largest crowd, but it definitely felt like the largest crowd. Like, they had 2 bleachers, and they were full, and people were standing on the courts behind us. And Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
You had a decent MAAC crowd, as MAAC crowds tend to be, but you're moving away from the MAAC now.
Yep.
What was your thought process of transferring, and what was your final decision?
And on that note, do you know what, if I say 84.9 to you, what does that mean? That's the average temperature in Fort Myers, Florida.
Warm.
There you go.
And
different
that's
than
where
Canada, I think,
Florida
right?
Gulf Coast is, Fort
Yep.
Myers,
Yes, it is.
84.9.
Yep. Well, you know me, Canadian. I deal with Celsius a little bit more. But yes, I know 84 is warm.
I've never met, by the way, I've had a lot of interaction with north of the border for many, many, many years, and I have never really met a Canadian who was not like nice. I don't know what it is about north of the border, but it's just, oh, okay, well, you know, there's always like a softer edge to everything.
Yeah, my mom joked when she saw me last year when my parents came to pick me up from school. She's like, "You're so mean right now." I've been in America
Yeah,
too
you've been in
long.
Poughkeepsie too long.
I'm in
see?
New York too
There
long.
you go.
But yeah, with the transferring, I mean, it was really just, I look at the fifth year kind of like a bonus year.
Yeah.
I'm like, and then there were kind of issues about whether I'd be able to even get a program I could take or not. And so then I think when that doubt of who knows if you'll actually be able to do school here kind of came into my mind, I obviously cried. I got really upset because I was like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? Nowhere else is going to take me. Like, I have no choice. I'm just going to have to like go home or something and figure that out. And then obviously the pity party stopped. I was like, okay, well, look at it as an opportunity to like meet new people, go somewhere completely different. Like, and so I started to kind of convince myself it's going to be okay. You're going to find it out. Like, you don't know what opportunity it could bring type of thing. And then I did a really good job at convincing myself, essentially. And then we were kind of getting things sorted and it looked like I could stay. And then I realized, I'm like, I think I really just want to take this. And I mean, you see a lot of people, because I know a lot of girls in the States, you see a lot of people who transfer for their fifth year just to get a new experience. And I kind of realized, I'm like, I think it'd be really beneficial for me to go and get a new experience somewhere else and just kind of break a routine, not get just kind of stuck in the everyday type of thing and just get a new experience.
So when you say programs, because I know from coaching experience here that international students can't get an MBA because there's no in-person.
Not here,
There's no in-person, so you can't get your visa.
Yep.
So that eliminates the MBA program as a graduate program for international students. So
and I was
that's
looking,
tough.
because then I was looking at doing, because I'm an accounting major, so I was looking at doing the accounting program, but I wouldn't be able to do like the dual degree because there was something with the visa and starting in the summer and all of that. But even then, the lady I was talking to was saying how we could kind of jimmy rig it to get me enough in-person credits.
Yeah.
But she was saying that like the school didn't have the, I don't know if you call it like a visa permit, but essentially they still couldn't offer it even if we could kind of back alley our way.
Too tedious.
Yeah.
Too tedious. And
I mean,
And
I think
that's an outgrowth of COVID because, like for the MBA program, because I used to always ask graduate students, you know, do you have to go to class? And they had one in-person class. Then when COVID happened and everything went to Zoom, to remote, they never reinstituted that in person. So it just, for international students, it's really difficult.
Yeah.
It's really difficult.
So as you move on to Florida, what is one thing, the most important and your favorite memory here in beautiful Poughkeepsie, New York?
Really putting her on the spot there.
That's what the student section's for.
That's right.
I feel like there are so many, though. I think, well,
All right, then separate it into volleyball,
And
off the
personal.
court, on the court.
There you go.
it's still a hard question.
Separate it
I mean,
into
come on.
That's a good thing.
We have to, we have to show our medal.
Well, that's true.
maybe
well,
food, a restaurant of your choosing.
food.
And I want
Cosmos.
to talk about food on the road trips also.
Okay. Volleyball-wise, well, my best memory for volleyball at Marist didn't actually necessarily happen at Marist, but obviously, it's with the team. And that's probably when we beat Fairfield. Oh, I don't remember. I think it was my junior year. We beat Fairfield at their place in 5, and that was the only loss they took all season. I think, well, they ended up losing in the MAAC tournament, but at the time, that was their only regular season loss that they had in the MAAC.
Always good to beat Fairfield.
Yes, always.
In the new arena?
Yeah. Well,
the old arena.
It was in the old arena. It was in their rec gym, but that was awesome. Like, that was a game, even though it was just regular season, after we won it, like, it felt like you won a championship. Like, that adrenaline that was going, that, like, you almost want to cry because you're so happy. It was that feeling, which was crazy because we're like, oh, wait, we, like, have
Kind of
another
like
game
what the
tomorrow.
guys felt when they were walking in today. They were so
Right, yeah.
they almost started.
Exactly.
Amped.
Yes, exactly like that.
Well, Sasha, you really have made quite the staple here in the entire campus, Marist. Whenever you're walking, I always see you. You're always with a positive mindset. We're going to miss you dearly here at Marist, and we wish you all the best at Florida Gulf Coast.
Thank you.
Sasha van der Merwe, everybody.
Thank you so much.
I have one more question I have to
Please.
ask. Do they have beach volleyball at Florida Gulf Coast?
Yes, they do.
They do. See, and that was a question. So many people, their concept of volleyball is beach volleyball, which they watch during the Olympics. Are you familiar with Kerry Walsh and Misty May Traynor? Are you familiar with?
Is that the Canadian duo who does
No, that's
so
the
well?
American duo who
No,
won 3
I'm not.
goals.
I'm not as huge into beach as I am indoor, but I've met a couple really great, like Sarah Pavin. I've met her, and like she does really well in beach, and I know a lot of girls who are doing really well in beach. But I like beach for fun.
Would you play at if they asked you to?
I don't know if they would ask me to play there. I don't know if I'm quite at that level, but I don't know. Depends on how I would feel, I guess.
I just had to ask you that question.
You couldn't play on the Hudson River.
We're trying to get out there on the water.
Really?
Yeah, we did a kind of practice with the rowing team, and our coach was like, yeah, we'll practice rowing, then we'll get you guys on the water. And we still haven't got on the water, but we really want to. We all jumped in for, it's like senior tradition. The seniors jump into the Hudson. So
Yeah.
we did that. But
Well, you'll get a lot of water down in Florida.
Yes,
Once
I
again, Gary, always with the questions, and we love him here in the student section. Our first guest, Sasha van der Merwe. Everyone, please.
thank you guys. Thank you.
We wish you the best of luck, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we'll be right back after this. This episode is brought to you by the Hudson Valley Renegades. Their season opener is April 16th. You can check their website for more information on tickets. They used to be only a June, July, August team, but now that they are an affiliate of the New York Yankees, they play real baseball starting on April 16th. And if you want to see some of the young Yankee guns, Spencer Jones just called up for spring training, played for the Renegades last year. And if Zolzer gives us tickets, we may have him on as a guest. So thank you, Hudson Valley Renegades, for jumping on the bandwagon and being a sponsor of the hottest podcast in college sports, the student section. And welcome back to the student section. We're about to dive into the red zone, where we talk about all things Marist sports. And we're joined in the student section by Ryder Lemmerman. Ryder, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you for having me. I'm Ryder. I'm a senior here at Marist, sports comm major, minor in music.
Oh,
Throws a lot of
nice.
people
Nice.
off. Yeah.
Very nice.
Is that in production or?
It's just there's 2 tracks at Marist, so you can either go an instrument track where you play an instrument. You either go for jazz band or do like the band that plays at like halftime, or you do vocal track, which is the one I'm in. So I'm in Marist College Singers. You have to do a singing ensemble for that.
So you could sing our open.
yeah.
I could if you needed me to.
The only track that they're missing, and soon to be, is the cross country and track and field track.
You need me to.
Maybe you can help build that one coming up.
I don't know if I'm a very good runner.
Fun fact, I sang a cappella in high school.
Oh,
You did.
I did, yes, I did.
I would see that you were more bass.
I was a bass, yes, I was.
Yes,
I can
gotta
see
be a bass.
that.
Be a little
It's got
conf-
that sultry, buttery,
Yeah.
buttery tone.
So the question
sing
I
in the
have, which
shower.
has nothing to do with on the field, but one of the things about the podcasts, when you look at podcasts all, because everybody's got one, is what people wear. So I wanted to know, what was your thought process, each of you, as to what you would wear today to the debut show of this, to be in the student section? Did any thought go in? And I'm not saying positive or negative.
Gary, you make good points. I think clothes were really our number one option here on the student section. I went for, I usually wear.
I always see you dressed.
I'm old school a little bit. I'm just a few years older than you, so it's a little tough to I'm always in a suit when I do my games. I enjoy it. I'm a blazer guy. I decided to go relatively casual. Put on a nice J. Crew sweater, some J. Crew corduroy pants. And I think that's what we're going to be rolling with for the foreseeable future.
Now, Aidan, I always see behind the camera, so he's like down in the bowels of the working environment. So I just figured that you would come appropriately dressed,
Yeah, I always typically wear flannel. I just think it's super comfortable, and then I have something underneath that I'll show off later.
It has to be Super Bowl related. It has to be 49er related.
And
then
giving
it away.
I really don't wear jeans that often. I'm just the typical athleisure dude. But I'm wearing them today, and so I maybe you'll see me in sweatpants in the future. But today, I think it's right that it's formal, and I'm wearing jeans.
And this guy's always so slick, man. I tell you. I mean, just if you want to just turn around
he's
right
dressed.
here. Let's go on the camera.
Is that my
here.
camera?
He's dressed.
Look at this beauty.
Yeah, no, he's dressed. He is definitely crisp today.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So,
Will's a great hype man.
As is our
Amazing hype man.
our TD. Gene the dancing machine,
Oh, my
who
goodness.
just slicked himself up prior to the broadcast, cut his hair, put a jacket on.
We'll enter a picture right here.
Obviously he thought this was the Tonight Show and not the student section. So
And shout out to the graphics team. This is the first time I'm seeing all the graphics,
Yeah,
and they look
tremendous
good.
job.
We're
They
doing a
amazing.
great job.
and we'll mention
the lead-in.
everybody and all the credits at the end of the show. So let's talk about the Red Zone. Let's talk about Marist. 4 basketball games last week: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 1 and 3. Women lost 2 highly competitive games. I thought the men lost to Mount St. Mary's in an unfortunate blowout for them, and then came back and beat St. Peter's. And the attendance was pretty good. Yep. The first game was a little over 1,000 people. Then there was 1,360 for game 2, which was the Mount St. Mary's game. And even though Marist lost that game, you saw some really good basketball. Mount St. Mary's was really good.
Dakota Lafew.
And their point guard poured in 34, had some beautiful passes, and you saw some really good basketball. Women came back on Saturday, attendance 1,427. And then on Sunday, which is a 2 o'clock start, I know Marist is always playing with the start times, but Sunday is traditionally a 2 o'clock start. Best crowd of the 4 days at 1,490. So, guys, jump into it. I thought the women gave tremendous efforts. Thought the men fought back and now have a stretch where they could do some damage playing teams that are a little down in the standings.
Let's start with the first game, the overtime loss to Quinnipiac for the women. I thought we had it, Marist had it in the bag.
Yeah.
I mean, something that I have been seeing throughout the season is Lexi Tarul. Her confidence levels are just fantastic so far. She does that Steph Curry-esque type, doesn't relocate the shot on her movement. She'll get a screen, and then she'll get a little shovel pass, and then just pop
Takes
those.
it and puts
she
it up.
makes it, she misses it. The confidence never leaves her mind. And I think that so far she's kind of been like the most improved player. She's coming out of Fordham. You don't really see that often transfer from Fordham. It's not necessarily a huge step up or a huge step down like Sulak coming from Tennessee. I think that her confidence and her shooting ability so far this season has proved different, even in a loss or a win, just to get that momentum. And I feel relatively confident every time that ball is up in the air.
She can really shoot it.
Especially the bank shot.
Yeah, the bank shot was awesome. I've heard from the people that talk to the women's basketball team and the coach. They think that they're right there. They've had so many close games. And they haven't been able to pull most of them out, but they think that they're in each and every game, and they're turning the corner. And obviously it's tough when you don't know whether your point guard is going to play or not play. She has a lot of nagging injury issues, but she tries her best every single time, and they have a lot more confidence when she's out there. It's just tough when you're trying to make a rotation and you don't know whether or not she's going to go her full expected minutes. But another person who's fighting through injury, Katie Cunningham, she is what I like to call a dog. I mean, she just goes after offensively and defensively. She is always on the glass. Katie Cunningham, I'm incredibly impressed by her.
Yeah.
She had upwards of 15 boards the other game.
Yeah. Terrell has a quick trigger.
Double. Yeah.
Terrell has a quick trigger. You can see I agree 100%. You can see the confidence growing, and she's really not afraid to take her shot. And in the overtime game, Quinnipiac was just hanging around. They had the best player on the floor, that girl Foley, was very, very good. And you just kind of felt that if it got down to the last couple minutes, they had the best player on the floor, and then they won it in overtime. But I think the optimistic thing, and this is kind of like a little backwards, but I heard in the postgame, Zaria Shazer was talking about that, they've lost to some of these teams 2 times, but when they play them in the MAAC tournament, be a 3rd time, it's tough to beat a team 3 times. That's very true. Also a neutral court.
They're continuing to stay positive.
Yeah, also a neutral court, and I think you take positives from the fact that they are still playing very hard, because they know that you're gonna get into the tournament. It just depends what your seed is.
Yeah.
We're used to seeding, as we saw last year, does not matter at all, especially with the men. I mean, Ryder, Patrick Gardner led Marist from the 11th seed all the way to the MAAC championship against Iona. Is there something in the blood of the MAAC that means you try your hardest, you get prepared in the regular season, you get seeded low, but once you hit Atlantic City, dreams are just being made?
I think it is like a kind of scrappy, just like a scrappy league. Like everybody wants the games they're playing really bad. Mm-hmm. Like our team especially, like the women's team, Katie Cunningham, like we were saying, she had back-to-back double-doubles.
Yep.
She goes for boards.
Mm-hmm.
She's a dog.
Yep.
She is a dog. That's one thing that stood out to me when I was watching the games. Like, dude, she goes for rebounds. She's a bulldog down there.
She finds it too. Like, I know Charles Barkley is someone that they always said just knows where the ball's going off the glass. She is always in the right spot, and it's very impressive. I think, with that being said, talking about getting into the MAAC tournament, if you're seeded against Fairfield, I think that's going to be a tough matchup for whoever ends up playing them, because they are incredible. They're receiving AP top 25 votes, so that'll be tough. But I mean, Marist, really all they can do is focus on themselves and not get too down, even though they're losing. I mean, it could just take the wind out of the sails entirely, losing so many close games in a row. But they've got to continue to focus on themselves, and it seems like they continue to have a positive mindset.
Gary, you've been here longer than we have, obviously. You've seen the emergence.
You sure?
In a good way. Gary's a great guy.
Thank you.
You've seen the emergence of Zaria Shazer. I mean, what have you seen throughout her time here? And compared to past players, it just feels like she's the perennial best player.
Yeah, I think that if you notice, she plays better when Kiara's on the floor. Mm-hmm. And I think that's because it opens up the floor for her a little bit. And I think maybe it was the 3rd quarter of the game on Saturday was their best quarter that I've seen in quite some time. And why was that? They were making shots.
Yep.
And I think that's the biggest problem they have is making shots. And so for her, she has very good moves down low, but other teams scout. And, if they run another person at her, or they make it tough for her to operate, if you have someone making some outside shots, it then opens up the floor.
Her favorite shot, as we know, to the viewers who don't, her favorite shot, let's say it's like 16 on the shot clock, she'll step around 2 feet inside from the outside top of the key 3 and nail that long distance 2. Analytically, that's the worst shot in basketball. But when you're making it at such a high efficiency like she is, I take it every day.
Yeah, I think Terrell can really help her out a lot, because I could not agree more that her confidence level is just growing by leaps and bounds. I think she feels she's not going to come out of the game if she misses a couple of shots. and she
She
can make
puts
them.
it up quick.
She can
doesn't-
make 'em.
It doesn't take her a long time to set up for the shot. She'll catch it and she'll just put it right up.
Yeah.
The
She
roll
can make
shot
it.
is
Smooth.
30,
Yeah.
it is super smooth.
33 from beyond the arc. And that's a
Yeah.
very good number for MAAC basketball.
You got to make shots. I mean, that's, I think, the biggest problem with the team is that they don't have, as compared to some of the teams in the past, the way the game is stretched out. I mean, you watch some of the opposing teams, they're lighting up from three the minute they step on the court.
Yeah.
They just start firing away. And Marist doesn't, we don't have that, I don't think.
That happened in the Mount St. Mary
game.
game.
Yeah.
It kind of got away from us. They started hitting threes, and to what we were saying before, like we kind of got down on ourselves, and we didn't really find our way out of that hole after that.
But you know who does find our way out of every hole this entire season? Your guy Josh Pasquarelli. That's your guy. I mean,
Yeah.
he basically has come in sharp shooting, contests on almost every shot, drives to the basket.
Yeah.
Him and Jaden Collins. I mean, that duo, both freshman guards, under 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah.
He's only a freshman. He's only 19,
So
just like
the-
Tatum.
The scary part.
It's very scary.
And hopefully, I don't want to talk about future guests until we actually know they're in the studio and ready to come on, but we are confident we're going to have someone from the basketball team on our next show. Is it's so different now when you have two freshmen like that who could lead you for the next 4 years.
Yep.
Are they going to stay? That's just the way college sports is right now,
Yep.
and it's very difficult. So when you have two guys like that, you enjoy the success that they're having, and then in the back of your mind you go, are they going to stay?
I have something that I was talking to my good friend Marley Pope about. He's the beat writer for the men's basketball team for Center Field. We've seen the men's basketball team, they can limit teams to super low amount of points. They're the lowest or the best defensive team in the MAAC.
That's their calling card, man.
But all four of their coaches are defensive minded. So they don't really get offense from anywhere. They have to give it to the post with Max Allen, who's another guy that came in this year. And offensively, they're just a little stagnant at times. A double will come to Allen, and if he's on, he'll make the right pass, but sometimes he gets flustered by the double and will turn it over. And I just think, I don't know where they get their offense from, because every single one of those guys on the coaching staff, for better or for worse, are all defensive-minded people. And I feel like there needs to be something where they figure out a more fluent and more efficient offense.
Please.
Yeah, no, I wanted to give the boys some credit because, when in that St. Peter's game, after that Mount St. Mary's, that was a tough game. But when they came out against St. Peter's, they were on.
Yep.
Yeah.
They really bounced back from that loss.
And part of that, has to do with Jackson Price. The guy
He can shoot.
takes shots, loses teeth, and takes the shots.
Can we talk about that? He went back into the game.
Me and you
after
were
he
there.
lost his teeth.
He lost, I believe it was 1 tooth.
So I think what happened is I got it from,
Derek?
not from him, but from somebody else, that he had, a tooth was chipped, and then he swallowed his crown. So he did lose a tooth. And he went back into the game. Mm-hmm. And Marist was losing by 20 points when he went back into the game. But
He gave it a little run.
And then he fixed himself up, and then he was ready to go on Sunday. And, I think that it tells a lot about the team and the coaching staff when the guys come out in what you said, Ryder, in terms of that they were ready to play. That's not always the case. That's not always the case, especially like an afternoon game, a little different than a night game. Yeah. Your body rhythm is different. You prepare for the game different, and like in the NBA, you always see blowouts like these 12 o'clock games or 1 o'clock, because guys are just got in at 6 a.m. So they, who knows what they're doing.
Price is shooting 44.4 from 3-point range.
Yeah.
And he is on pace to have the best 3-point percentage since the 2012-13 season by Jay Bowie in 2013.
That's some will to thrill research right there.
0.8%. So Jackson Price.
He's more of a power forward.
That's all.
He is. You know what I'd love to see? I'd love to see Max and him play good
He's
minutes
more
together.
of a power forward, because if you notice his game, he has trouble down low. Holding on to the ball, being physical, And then he has a gorgeous touch from the outside. He's a stretch 4 more than he is a 5, whereas Max is a low post guy.
Max
is down low.
Great footwork.
But that's an interesting point. If both those guys played at the same time, how you could, now would they worry about it? As you said, that's their brand. They're a defensive-oriented team, and so how would you approach that? So I think the women just have to attack each game as it comes and keep their heads up. But the men have a stretch of games coming up where they could make some noise.
Marist women's basketball plays Fairfield on Thursday at 11 a.m. on ESPN Plus. God help them. And Marist basketball on the 8th, so should be the day that this releases on that same Thursday, plays Siena at 7 o'clock on ESPN Plus. We will be tuning in, and we hope you do as well. This has been the Red Zone. Ryder, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll
Appreciate
have you
it,
on.
Ryder.
Many more to come.
The Student Section podcast is presented by the Marist Center of Sports Communications. Tune in to Center Field for all articles and the Red Fox Report on ESPN broadcasts.
That's Sussman with Gary Sussman.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Student Section podcast here in Studio A of Lowell Thomas Building at Marist College. This is a segment where we'd like to call That's Sussman with our own Gary Sussman. Gary has had a fantastic career in the NBA with U.S. Open tennis, the USTA, but this is his time to shine. Throughout the show, throughout the seasons, he will give his mindset and his good old sports mind on what he thinks is right and what he thinks is wrong here about sports. We get to ask him questions. He gets to answer truthfully. And Aidan will start us off for the first segment of
That's Sussman.
You
Here we
Know
go.
It.
And we only have the segment because Will came up with that graphic and he wants to be able to justify it. So let's go.
All right. Are you ready for your first question?
I'm ready for my first question.
This is the debut, so we've got to make it a good one.
All right.
When you worked at the U.S. Open, Will just mentioned that.
Yes.
Who was the easiest to deal with, Federer, Rafa, or the Joker?
Wow, that's a loaded question. For the sake of time and not to get too much into the woods, so the difference between what I do at the U.S. Open and what I did in the NBA is the NBA I'd be in charge of the players, where at the Open I moderate the press conferences and the ATP or WTA PR is in charge of the players. So I don't have to worry about that aspect of it. What I do have to worry about is the interaction between the players and the media and also their agents. So I've been yelled at by Federer's agent. I've been yelled at by Rafa's agent. In terms of the three, because now, especially like last year, only one of them played, which is Djokovic. Djokovic has softened up a little bit.
Really?
He's a little aloof, nice guy, but a little aloof.
He's been doing some mic'd up stuff with, I believe there was a doubles, co-ed doubles, and I saw that. So
He's a great, he's very, very nice guy.
Yeah.
Very, very nice guy. But in terms of personality, now he knows he's the man, so he has changed a little bit.
Right.
Okay. Federer to me was always like James Bond.
Yep.
Mr. Cool, just everything in place. One time he needed something. He goes to me. He goes, "Hey, you." I go, "You talking to me?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "My name is Gary."
Did he say Suss money? Or
No, I said, "My name is Gary." He goes, "How long have you been here?" I said, 4 years. He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Yeah.
And then Rafa would walk in, he'd shake your hand, he'd shake Will's hand, he'd shake Victoria's hand, he'd shake all the cameraman's hand. When he won the Open, first person he came to was me, shook my hands, had the trophy. So they all have different personalities.
This is a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
I
don't know what impersonation that was.
Yeah, but he's just a very, very nice guy. And hopefully his body holds up so that he can come back to the Open this year. But the Joker, he knows he's the man now. The other guys are gone.
Right.
So he's reveling in that perch that he has as statistically the greatest player of all time.
What do you got, Will?
That was a good Sussman. but this one is questionable, and you think we did not discuss this prior.
No.
But I think
I told you, react, don't rehearse.
you're going to know what this is. So Marist playing St. Peter's here at the McCann Arena Sunday, 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
One of the weirder things I have ever seen. I want your reaction. Late second half, 2 Marist players inbound the ball from out of bounds.
Yeah.
In college, as we know, you're allowed to offload the ball to another out-of-bounds inbounder.
Yeah.
However, the Marist player did not regain out-of-bounds position. You rarely hear that. What was that, and how sus was that?
Actually, it's interesting you should say that, because I got a call on the ride home from another Marist coach wanting to know why they got 30 seconds on the shot clock. And the reason was because it was a front court violation. And so it was very confusing. And, you know, when you do PA off of the officials, not off of the game.
Exactly.
I know it's a little hard to understand, but I call what the officials call. So in terms of what the players did, it was I thought that the guy just wasn't out of bounds and he passed it and then he went back out of bounds. I needed a video replay on that. So that's a long answer to a short question, or a short answer to a long question.
Well, the first segment of That Sussman underway. We'll have more reactions from Gary Sussman. Roll the intro, and we'll see him for another segment next
Will
week.
loves this section because he came up with the video. Tremendous job. Tremendous. Ah!
We'll be back.
Adios.
And welcome back to the tape room, student section, going all out on this debut show. And this is the section where we talk about all sports, whatever's on the buffet. Like I said, like at the Olive Garden, whatever you want to go up and get, you can get in this section. And so the student section thought that they wanted to talk a little NBA, and specifically the three-point contest that's going to take place between Steph Curry and Sabrina Ionescu. And I think it's a genius situation because it happened organically between the two players, which makes it tremendous. But, you know, when you talk about men versus women, and I think that's going to be the highest rated part of the All-Star Weekend without a doubt because of the nature of the competition. But when you look at when men compete against women, whether it's a long drive contest or a situation like this where Sabrina's shooting from her three-point line, Steph is shooting from his three-point line. The only one that I could come up with was in September of 1973, before Twitter, before cell phones, I had black hair, was when Billie Jean King played Bobby Riggs, beat him in 3 sets. Now, the only handicap, Billie was 29, a Grand Slam champion. Bobby, a former Grand Slam champion, was 55.
Yeah.
But the court didn't change, the balls didn't change, the rackets didn't change, so the playing surface was exactly the same. But, you know, maybe if you had a field goal competition between like a women
Carly
field
Lloyd.
goal kicker and a male field goal kicker.
Yep.
But I think that this is great. And also, why I think it's genius is because I think you're going to see this every year, because who's coming into the WNBA next year?
Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark.
Yep.
Average attendance up 150%. I do my research.
You know it.
right.
Over 150% for Iowa games. Average attendance over 11,000. I think,
She
unfortunately,
puts butts in seats.
I think her star actually diminishes by going to the WNBA.
Next year, I'm hearing that
Indiana
Caitlin
Fever.
Clark's going to go up against Dante DiVincenzo.
You're
No,
kidding.
no.
Now, take off your Nick pants right
Yeah.
now that you have, your Nick shorts you have underneath.
I
your
think it's
pants.
right, though, that we talk about Sabrina. We had a outstanding female athlete guest on this show, and now we're talking about another outstanding female athlete. Going up against Steph Curry, one of my favorite players, not only in the NBA, but my favorite players in just all of sports. I mean, the guy's incredible, and Sabrina is just as incredible. She's able to score just like Steph, and she is fearless. I mean, she posted to Twitter for everyone to see that she is not going to take anything off of Steph. She's there to win. Steph's there to win. And Sabrina is going to be shooting from the three-point line, the NBA three-point line.
She says the NBA three-point line because I looked it up and they said that she's not, but maybe she's.
I'm pretty sure she put in that tweet that she would.
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to find out and see. And yeah.
She really is becoming the face of Brooklyn almost for Sabrina Ionescu. I mean, the Barclays. No, really. She plays at the Barclays Center. She's all over Brooklyn's Barclays Center.
He's trying to take down the Nets any way he can.
No, I watch. I'd say
wait till we talk about the Knicks.
75% of Nets games, man. I'm a big yes guy, but Sabrina is just becoming.
Yeah, you're watching Ian. You don't care about the game.
Oh,
you watch
Ian,
what Ian's doing.
Ryan, Noah, everyone.
Yep.
I mean, she really just. I see her everywhere. I went to the NBA store because I'm a crazy man, and I walked around. The whole floor is dedicated to women's basketball. Sabrina Ionescu alternate jersey, Sabrina Ionescu regular jersey, Sabrina Ionescu t-shirts. It's fantastic, and I think when she gets onto the All-Star game, a lot of these people who are not on social media are going to be like, who's that? And then they're going to see, oh, she plays for the Liberty. The Liberty don't play in the Garden anymore. They're going to tune in, and it's just going to be a perfect affair.
Here's an idea, and the NBA better not steal this from me. I'm going to patent it. The WNBA All-Stars and the NBA All-Stars combine and play an All-Star game all together. I think that would make for incredible content. Sabrina's already going against Steph, and if you put the WNBA players and the NBA players together, you're growing not only the WNBA game, but I think NBA gains more respect from the female fans as well.
The problem with that is that the NBA, just the physical makeup of the two just don't.
But it's the All-Star game. It's not a series.
And you're right. In the All-Star game, they don't play.
Right.
They play
So I think a little scrimmage would not be a bad idea.
You know what's interesting about the matchup, which people are going to eat up, is that you could make a point, and I believe this, that Steph changed the face of basketball.
Yep.
I was watching guys warm up before the Marist game, and these are just high school. When I was in the NBA, at the end of practice, they would shoot for money from half court. Okay. Now, guys shoot in the game from the logo, a couple steps in from half court.
Yeah.
That did not happen 10, 15 years ago.
No.
And now it is standard fare, and the women are shooting from farther out. Caitlin Clark was shooting from the logo. She was putting them in from the logo herself the other day.
Yep.
And
it's crazy that some people are going after Caitlin Clark for all the wrong reasons because that was inaccurate.
When you think of college basketball, right now, who's the first person that comes to your mind?
It's Caitlin Clark.
Not Caitlin Clark for me.
It's not. Who is it?
Realistically, it's probably Jared McCain.
Who is he?
Well, it's Gary.
From
He's a
Duke?
viral sensation on TikTok. It starts on TikTok, and he basically changed the landscape of Duke basketball from its traditional ways. He likes dancing. He's a fantastic
Some of that
player.
has to do with Coach K going there.
Yes,
So that's an
exactly.
esoteric answer to a very simple question.
Caitlin Clark is in the top 5, though, Gary.
Top 5. She's
five.
top 2 and she's
I
not
personally
2.
think she's the face of college basketball.
Yeah.
She's the number one draw in college basketball.
Well, Caitlin Clark, and then just above, I'd say, is Patrick Gardner.
Next year, Cooper Flag for men's. will
Patrick
definitely
Gardner,
be
who I
up there.
believe is playing for the Nets,
Long Island Nets, yes.
G League
Yep.
team,
Yes.
right?
They need to call him up ASAP.
You know it.
Yeah. So I think that
No bias.
I think it's a great move.
Fantastic move.
And so I can't wait for it. I think it's going to be great. And since we morphed a little into pro basketball, and I know Will is dying to talk about the Knicks, even though as we tape, Jalen Brunson got hurt the night before. Here's my take, okay?
Oh boy.
Okay.
I'm bracing myself.
So I'm not. When you work in the business, you're not a fan anymore. So as far as the Knicks go, I spent over 2 decades head to head with those guys for space, for airtime, for any type of publicity, and so the word hate is not a good word in my vocabulary. But I would say that I had a competitive disadvantage where I had to do things all the time as to what the Knicks were doing. That being said, when we had our great teams, we went into the Garden and we kicked their butt all the time. And my mentor, Rod Thorne, NBA Hall of Famer, who was my boss for 10 years, said that if Jason Kidd had played for the Knicks, they would have put a statue outside Madison Square Garden. And besides the birth of my kids, the happiest moment I ever had professionally was when we took the back page of the New York Post when we were in the NBA Finals in 2002 and 2003. That being said, because I tried to be an objective guy, they got a real good team.
They do.
And I think that they can go to the Eastern Conference Finals and that the only team standing in their way would be Boston. So I give them their props. I like the team. The trade was a great trade. The one that makes it similar to me was way back when they traded Walt Bellamy and Butch Comeyes for Dave DeBusschere.
So a few days ago that trade happened.
OG and Dave DeBusschere fit the same thing. DeBusschere was the fifth guy in that piece for the 69-70 championship team, and OG is that piece for this Knick team. And why? He can guard the best player on the other team.
No matter the size, OG is there. I mean, he's been out for 5 games, and the presence is really missed. My favorite player in the entire league, Isaiah Hartenstein, though, has made upwards of...
That's a great favorite player.
Oh, Gary.
How do you pronounce his name?
Hartenstein.
Very
Isaiah
nice.
Hartenstein.
You've been listening to Ian.
But he's made himself upwards of $15 million in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the guy, his presence is fantastic. Anyone on that team knows without him, and even the step-up improvement by Precious Achiuwa. I mean, Gary, Aidan, I don't know how much you know about Precious Achiuwa going in, but he was
I'm sure you'll tell us.
Oh, throughout the year, I'll be wearing my Hartenstein jersey. You can see me.
But just know that the playoffs is different than the regular season.
And as long as Tibbs runs all of his 7 starting players into the ground, then listen. The Knicks have no shot, and eventually it's just going to be. I mean, they're all hurt. Randall's hurt.
That has nothing
Brunson's
to do
hurt.
with Tibbs, though.
Yeah, he runs them too many minutes. He has for his whole career. But I guess we'll see. We'll have to watch the rest of the NBA season. We've got a fantastic segment with the tape room, and we'll be right back after this.
Now, I don't know any cafe that has chicken wings, nachos, and beer, but ours does for this show because this is our Super Bowl show. So Aidan has been chomping at the bit. I believe he may have a Joe Montana jersey on. So tell us why the 49ers are going to beat Mahomes, Kelsey, and Andy Reid.
Yeah, no Joe Montana jersey this year. It's all Brock Purdy. I did a wardrobe change. Just a bit. Obviously, I'm repping
like
my
that
guys.
sweatshirt.
Thank you. I
like
got it
that.
for Christmas from my California cousins. They came for Christmas. And, so, I mean, basically why the 49ers are going to beat the Chiefs. They're more talented offensively and defensively. That goes with all pros or even just looking at the speed of the defenses and the offenses on the field. And I think the most important part was Nick Bosa's press conference where he blatantly said, and you don't see this ever, he gave bulletin board material to the Chiefs, but it was more in direction to the referees for them to keep an eye on the Chiefs that hold. I mean, the offensive tackles, you have Jawan Taylor and Trey Smith. All year, they have either been false starting, holding, and doing whatever they can to keep Mahomes clean, and Bosa will not allow that. And I think McCaffrey goes for 2 touchdowns, Ayuk probably 75 yards, Debo 100 yards combined, rushing and receiving. And I won't give a final score prediction, but I'm very confident in the 49ers, and I'm sure if you guys would like to ruffle my feathers, I can try to be dissuaded, but it will not happen.
Will friends of yours be betting on this game?
Me? I'm not a bettor. I don't do the betting.
I said friends of yours.
I really stay clear of the betting until we get a
So
sponsor.
you have no friends?
I will not be.
I have many friends, yeah, but I'm a clean guy. Only betting I like is like
The question was, do you have friends of yours
who bet.
Not do you?
If I have friends of mine who bet, I am not really friends with them.
Oh, wow.
So the question is, yes, that your friends will be betting on this game.
I mean, it's a Super Bowl. I think there's going to be a lot of prop bets.
Yeah. Do you have a
Gatorade
strong
color.
feeling one way or the
Yes,
other?
I
As
got it.
strong as your-
I'm going with those Chiefs.
Oh
I
my
mean, realistically, you know what's going to happen. It's going to be a close game. Third quarter rolls around. Mahomes is going to waddle a little bit. Mahomes is going to do his thing, and then he's going to chuck him down.
Kelsey, that's it. They have no other weapons.
Yeah,
Rasheed Rice is
you're right.
okay,
No, I
but
agree.
there's
I
no other
agree.
weapons besides Kelsey.
I 100%
The 49ers have played this team before in the Super Bowl, and they are ready this time. There's no Tyreek Hill to run that stupid wasp route that broke my heart, okay? The 49ers are prepared. They have a better team than they did in the previous Super Bowl, and they're ready to go.
Aidan, see, that's the thing. I'm not arguing. I just am saying I really think that it's just the Mahomes
Yeah,
effect.
and I'm telling you why you're wrong. It's that simple.
I mean, Gary, you seem
Am
to
I supposed to be the voice of reason?
Yeah, you seem to be the neutral guy.
I'm very neutral.
On this regard, you have a team with utmost experience, arguably the best quarterback, since
That I
Brady.
can agree with.
And let's say he wins another one, okay? Let's say he wins the MVP. Let's say he wins the Super Bowl MVP. Let's say he wins the Super Bowl. Where does that place him all time?
Well, he is on a trajectory. I mean, he's a young guy, but the problem is that the window for them to be a great team is closing.
Yep.
And you can only be a great guy if you have a great team around you, even though Brady showed that he could take even maybe good talent and make them even better. But in particularly this particular game, I think the Chiefs are playing their best ball at the right time.
Yep.
I agree with you 100% that they don't have as many weapons as they used to have. I also think that the Lions should have beaten the 49ers.
That's fair.
And so,
But they didn't.
They didn't. And in this particular instance, I just think that they do have limited offensive options. I can easily see the 49ers winning, but I would be hard-pressed to say that Mahomes would not find a way.
I
to
get
win.
that it's tough to bet against Mahomes, but
But
I
it's
think
a great game. It's a two-point
and
spread. May
this-
go down to 1.5. And the over/under is very high.
Yeah.
For this game, it's like
Yeah.
53 something.
A lot of
Very
people
high.
are on the under, and I think 75% of the people are on the Chiefs. That's where the money is. I understand why. Mahomes obviously has done it before, and you have Mr. Irrelevant turning into Mr. Relevant. I mean, he's in the Super Bowl, the biggest game of the year, and it would be a fantastic storyline to see him win it. I think ultimately McCaffrey's going to carry that offense, and they'll find running lanes. And the defense, I know I've been watching a lot of their press conferences, interviews. The defense was not happy with how they performed the first two games, and they have now an extra week to prepare for the Chiefs. I think they come out in a different way, the way that I saw them play in the regular season, and hopefully it leads to a victory.
So the student section says one 49er, one Kansas City.
And I have one more.
Oh, boy.
Let's hear it from the crew. How about the 49ers crew?
Wow.
Okay.
Chiefs.
Oh.
Not,
Okay, let's
not
go.
so much.
That's my crew. I
And
paid
on
them all
that note,
$50 beforehand.
I would just like to recognize the people behind the scenes for this particular debut episode, which, trust me, there was no rehearsal, there was nothing. We went cold, and I hope you enjoyed. We have plenty more coming up during the semester. You know the host. Producers, Gene Barberi, Anthony DePonio, and Robert Seifer. Research, Amanda Lubin, Derek Daugiallo.
Oh,
No,
close enough. You don't
Josh
care.
Kreisler. Social, Jalen Rizzo, Victoria D. Tutulio, Nate Babcock. Communication, Will the Thrill. Stefan Duncan, not the character from Saturday Night Live, and Ryder Lemmerman. Did I leave out anybody's name? Jib Camera, Finn Corcoran Doolin.
Yep.
And
An Irish lad.
anybody else that I left out, Cole Marciano. Didn't want to leave Cole out. Nate Babcock, I don't know if I mentioned his name.
And just as important, Sasha.
And Sasha was just tremendous as our first guest. We could have had her on for Zach
Hours.
Lagresta
Yep.
is also here. And anybody else that I missed? It's a podcast. You can do what you want.
Next, in 2 Thursdays on the 22nd, stay tuned as we dive into another guest and we see someone call in. If that is any hint.
Wow.
I may not be here, depending on how the Super Bowl goes. Go 49ers.
So we will have some special guests join us throughout the rest of the semester, Gary.
And also to remember, we have a sponsor.
We do.
That's right.
Hudson Valley Renegades, and we'll talk more about them later. But we actually have a sponsor. Not bad. Pretty good. Sundays, 10:05 HBO. Guys, thank you very much.
You could tune in anywhere you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, we're on YouTube. Stay
Come
with
get
us
some.
on
Come
YouTube.
get some.
Spotify podcast, Apple podcast, Google podcast, Amazon podcast, Breaker podcast, anywhere you get your podcasts. So thank you for tuning in, and why don't you take us
And how
out,
about
Gary?
let's crew round of applause for everybody.
Oh, wow.
Great job. Student section is closed for this week.
Gonna
We'll see
get a
everybody
seizure.
in 2 weeks. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Take care.